Welcome back to It Is One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
And Bailey, before we start today, I just want to talk about something that I saw on Facebook that really pissed me off.
Okay. What do you got for me today, Taylor?
Okay, I saw a GoFundMe.
I like GoFundMes.
Well, I like GoFundMes too, but this one I did not really appreciate. And you're probably going to hear what it was for and be like, well, you're a piece of shit for that one. But hear me out, okay?
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever I hear GoFundMe, it reminds me of South Park and Go Fund Yourself.
Oh, yeah, the Go Fund Yourself was really good.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
But anyway, there's this kid who wants a guitar for Christmas, right?
That's pretty nice.
Don't know what kind of guitar he wants, but it's like a $600-700 guitar.
Okay.
And his parents have a budget of $100 for a Christmas present.
So the parents set up like a GoFundMe for their kid's Christmas present? Because that doesn't seem too bad.
No, not the parents, because there's more to it.
Okay.
The owner of the store, the music store that has the guitar that says that this kid is like a prodigy, really good at guitar, will probably only get better.
Okay.
He said he would knock off $100.
I don't like where this is going at all.
No, oh yeah, I don't like where it was going at all either because I read it. But he said he would knock off $100, which means that the total now goes from $700 to $500.
That's $200.
Yeah, because he knocks off $100 and the parents pay $100.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah, so he needs help raising the extra $500.
And this is the owner of the guitar store? Or the music store or whatever?
Yes.
Why doesn't he just donate it?
That is the question I asked myself that I still don't know. Like, he got the money in 2 days from 10 different people. Got the $500
Impressive.
that was needed. And I was like, oh my God.
So whenever we like want new podcast equipment and stuff, do you want us to just set up a new like GoFundMe or something?
Yeah, we'll get a kid, like a random kid, and we'll say that he is a podcast prodigy, has like the voice of an angel. Okay.
Yeah, he sounds like Bruce Buffer
He
when
sounds
he
like
talks.
No, he's the next Morgan Freeman.
Oh, okay. That's even more buttery and sweet.
Yeah, he's the next Morgan Freeman, but says motherfucker like Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
And we're gonna find this kid. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna say all he wants for Christmas is podcasting equipment because he wants to start his own podcast, but doesn't know how. But we found a person that we're gonna partner with that said they would take off $200 of the $4,000 podcast equipment.
That would be cold-blooded.
And we just need help raising the other $3,800 because we only have a budget of $0.
So while that sounds pretty funny and stuff, I don't know if it's really related to today's episode.
No, it's not related to today's episode at all. It was just I needed to bitch about something because I saw that before we started recording, and I thought I would throw it in there.
No, I mean, I definitely feel that. It seems a little outlandish that the owner of a music store would start a GoFundMe instead of just donating it.
It's in the inventory. And even if you knock off the price or whatever.
I mean, no, a discount's cool, but...
No, it's not. Because you can discount the whole thing.
I mean, I get that, but just providing a discount is a cool thing to do. But then to start a GoFundMe for the parents, like to me that's super wild. That's like a super wild concept.
It is the most wild concept that I've come across. I mean, it's a good marketing strategy and it's a great way to sell something, but it's fucked up.
It's definitely wild. I would never. That's not at all where I anticipated that story going.
Oh, not at all.
No,
because I didn't anticipate that story going that way either. But anyway, let's actually get into talking about this movie, the 2019 cinematic masterpiece, The Lodge.
I feel like cinematic masterpiece is a little bit of an overstep, but I hear you. The Lodge is the movie we're doing.
It was directed by Severin Fiala and Veronica France. And if I mispronounced those, no surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. These things do happen.
Would you like to do the writers, since there's 3 of them? And
yeah, I can do the writers. So the writers are Sergio Cassi, Veronica France, and Severin Fiala. Once again, I don't know if I pronounced those correct either. And if I didn't, I apologize.
we here at Two Idiots One Podcast don't actually know how to speak other languages, just English. So anytime that we get foreign words, we fuck it up.
I mean, I would argue that I don't even necessarily know how to read. So just me attempting should be seen as impressive.
I don't think you know how to speak either there, bud.
No, I don't. But I'm glad that we're bringing up mispronouncing names because it's a throwback to the first episode of the podcast.
Oh, the unreleased one?
No, a classic horror story
Oh,
where we also talk about our inability to pronounce names.
all the way back in April of 2022. We were mispronouncing names. And don't worry, we'll fucking continue.
Absolutely. So, Taylor, the movie today is 2019's The Lodge. We've gone over the director and the directors and writers. So, on a scale from 1 to 5, what would you give this?
If I had to give this movie a score on a scale from 1 to 5, it would probably be a 2.
Okay, and just for anyone who's unaware, 1 is the worst thing you could imagine, or I guess 0. And 5 is super divine, basically a perfect film or movie.
Yeah, a 0 would be a Serbian film, and a 5 would be Pulp Fiction.
That's an interesting scale since they aren't even the same genre of movie.
No, because one's great and the other's not. But those would be like, or if you want to do a more recent one, we did the Fight Club episode, so Fight Club's a perfect 5 for me. That'd be the most recent one. And yeah, Serbian film, which we will never review, that it would be a hard 0.
So, back to the
What
lodge.
the fuck was that?
That was an accident. I used my foot.
What'd you use your foot for? Making children cry? It's like a child's weeping.
Yeah.
Anyway, what would you...
toddlers.
Kicking toddlers. Oh, man. That reminds me of today's movie. But no, if you had to give it a score on a scale from 1 to 5, what would you give it?
I would probably give it a 3. This movie, to me, it's a product of its time. Once we started getting into the later, 2010s, we started seeing a lot more of these, I don't want to say highbrow or elevated horror movies, but basically that's what it is, where a majority of the tension and stuff is psychological and being, just fucked with rather than actual, it's not like a slasher or anything like that, you know what I mean? It's typical. It reminds me of, the Babadook and stuff like that. It follows. Obviously different, but same vibe.
And I don't even like the Babadook, but that movie does a lot better job, and I think that's why my score is low.
No,
it wasn't worthy of a 1 in my opinion. It had to step up from it because of the acting, but the movie really does try to be elevated horror, and I feel like it fails horribly because I figured out the ending within the first, what was it? It's a 2-hour movie. And I think within 30 minutes, I was like, oh, this is probably, I had 2 endings for it, and one of them was correct.
That's fair.
And I remember when I watched The Babadook, I was like, oh, maybe this is how it ends. Kind of unsure. I don't think I was right on that one. I definitely was not right on Hereditary.
Right. So you said you'd give it a 2 out of 5, and you kind of talked about why it would be that. So for anyone who hasn't seen it and is listening, because we haven't given any spoilers yet, what would your spoiler-free plot summary be?
My spoiler-free plot summary would be 2 kids and their father go up to a remote cabin for the winter with their soon-to-be stepmom after their mother has committed suicide.
And that's not really a spoiler because it happens in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. They go up to the cabin and the children are having a hard time accepting the fact that their mother is dead, but the stepmom wants to be the defining factor in their lives. Then the children find out that she's the surviving member of a cult that all killed themselves when she was 12, and she's the last remaining member. And then weird stuff starts happening at the cabin after the dad goes back into town for work. And that is the lodge.
Yep, that's a very, very accurate spoiler-free summary.
I think anything else would be too spoilerly. Like, I don't think I said anything in there that was a spoiler.
No, you didn't. I mean, I guess technically them going to the lodge and the dad leaving is a spoiler, but I'm pretty sure that's in the description of the movie itself. Like if you read the description on like IMDb or on Netflix or Hulu, because I'm pretty sure it's still on Hulu if you haven't watched it and are looking to.
I watched it on Hulu.
That is also where I watched it.
But yeah, I would say overall 2 out of 5. Probably wouldn't seek it out. If by the time this episode releases and it's not on Hulu anymore, it might be okay. Definitely don't pay for it. Don't rent it. If you can find it for free on like Tubi or something, then it's probably fine. But yeah.
See, you're a little more critical than I am. Because like I said, I would give it a 3 out of 5. It's very middle of the road. Like Taylor said, the twist in it is kind of
there is no twist.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
It's a M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Yeah, what happens is kind of foreseeable. There are a lot of foreshadowing and hints to it throughout the movie.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get to it in the spoiler section because that'll be like the first thing that we talk about because it pisses me off.
Yeah, but beyond that, I don't have anything else for the spoiler-free section. Do you?
No, because everything that I have that I want to talk about would ruin the movie. So we will roll the spoiler music to let you know that we're transitioning. And if you would like to watch this movie, pause and then come back after you're done to hear us talk about why we gave it the scores that we did. And if you don't give a fuck about that, continue listening. So Bailey, since you are the one that is editing this podcast and I'm talking to you in the future, roll the music.
I just want to take a second to thank future Bailey for putting in the music like that. I know you feel underappreciated sometimes, but I'm here for you, bud.
And I just want to say good job, future Bailey, because I carry this podcast, so it's nice to know that you do some work.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what I would do if I had more talking parts.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, that was good. But anyway, what did you figure out the twist?
No.
Like the first time you watched it?
So the first time I watched it was shortly after it came out, and I didn't figure out the twist. Like I knew that I was suspicious of the kids because of him bringing her the drink and just the way he was acting the whole time, and like the writing on the bathroom mirror when he was watching her in the shower. Like a lot of that stuff was like, oh, the kids are fucking with her. And I had subtitles on, and in the subtitles it says who's speaking.
Oh,
like,
that's fucking funny.
And it's saying who is speaking really, really spoils it. Because at one point it says it's Aiden speaking over like the voices that Grace is hearing. On there, it's captioned with who is speaking, and it says Aiden, repent your sins.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh, I was like, that's funny.
That's wow. Okay. I was very suspicious of the kids because I guess knowing kind of where they're coming from, because I have step parents, you know?
Yeah.
So kind of knowing that intense hatred that you feel for your step parents in the beginning before you actually get to know them, because you're like, oh, you're replacing my mom or my dad or whatever. Like I get where they were coming from with it, and I just want to say first of all that the little girl.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
that kid, Leah McHugh playing Mia, tore my fucking heart out when she was crying. Like I felt like her mom really did die.
I've seen this movie. This is my third time watching it. And every single time I tear up watching the scene of her after her mother's suicide, not because I care about the mother's suicide, but because her acting is so convincing and her tears seem so real.
Yeah, no, I don't give a fuck that the mom killed herself. Like that was actually a really piss poor suicide scene.
It stuck with me, surprisingly. Like when I rewatched the movie, even after it being a couple of years before I seen it, I immediately knew that was going to happen and was like bracing for it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not super graphic and it's not super drawn out, but because of how nonchalant it is, to me that increases the impact of it.
I felt like even that was scripted. Like you could kind of tell.
Well, no, you could tell, but because of the nonchalant nature of it and how she's just like, oh, I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine, take a drink, and then not even pulling it out and looking at the gun, not even foreshadowing. It's just immediate gun
Boom.
out, boom. I thought that was done really well.
I can see that.
Like, I get it not being as impactful as like Funny Games on the scene where the people get fucked up and it just lingers on them for a long time, or, you know, similar scenes in like The Strangers and stuff.
Or even Martyrs.
Yeah, or
I
even
would-
Martyrs.
Yeah. Which I would say that opening scene is like, oh, that's where we're at? Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that kid just opens the door and then they just start blasting. Like, there is no warning. It's just open the door, kaboom. I don't know. I just want to take a moment and say that because, like, holy fuck, dude. That kid, oh my God.
It reminded me of Black Phone.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's the inverse because I saw this first. But when I saw Black Phone, the actress in that reminded me of Leah in this, or Mia is her character's name.
Which I thought was also kind of funny because her character's name's Mia and her real name's Leah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the part that so having that in my mind, I was like, okay. Then their stuff starts missing and the power goes out, and I immediately was like, okay, they're dead. This is gonna be one of those stupid ones. And the moment that he brought that up, that he's like, well, what if we're dead? I'm like, oh, 100% they're fucking with her and they're trying to drive her insane because they just don't like her.
Yeah.
Like as soon as he said that, because I kind of had my suspicions, like you said, when he brings her the coffee or the drink or whatever.
Yeah, after being super like standoffish, not talking to her, not accepting sandwiches that she offers to make him.
Literally saying, I don't want to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. And then
The next scene.
Because she says, oh, so you're just going to watch me in the shower.
So that's one scene that that foreshadowed the kids doing fucky shit. But another one actually happens the first night they're alone when Grace is in her room and then Mia comes and says, oh, I heard a voice. And then as she walks out, because her brother's not with her, and then the door shuts of the room adjacent to the room that Grace is in.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And it happens right after Mia came and got her. So obviously, in my mind, it was the brother in there doing that and Mia leading her so that she would see the door shutting but not have an explanation for it. You know what I mean? Like the voice that she heard that she came and knocked about was played by them.
Mm-hmm. No, there was that. There was also the fact that, and I really didn't like it because she knew that they were fucking with her. You know,
At first,
like no, but see, that was the thing that I didn't like. Was she openly says, where is my stuff? Like,
yeah.
why are you doing this? You know, and then she stops when she sees that it was her, like their stuff was gone too. Because she goes through and she's like, where's your stuff at?
Well, so see, the reason that was so effective and the reason it worked on Grace so well is because the night before Mia planted her doll in Grace's room.
Right.
And planting the doll in there started to make Grace question her sanity. It's gaslighting her.
Mm-hmm. No, they gaslight her the whole time.
Yeah.
Because they know that she's part of the cult, right?
And then when they take her pills away, like, we don't know exactly what they were, but I would imagine there's some kind of antipsychotics or mood stabilizers or something like that.
I would say that it's probably a mixture of that, because it seems like when she doesn't have them, she reverts back to her old ways. So she needs a mood stabilizer and like an antipsychotic. I can't remember the exact name of it, but there is a pill that the nurses will give some of the patients that have symptoms like that. I just can't remember what the fucking pill's called. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I know what it is. And it's one of those funny things when one of the kids are like, yeah, I'm on this fucking antipsychotic, and they'll just openly admit it. I'm like, all right, crazy. The giving her the sleeping pills was kind of obvious. The static on the TV was kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why that was in there, but like showing her The Thing.
Yeah.
Showing her a movie that made her uncomfortable enough to where she was like, well, can we watch something else? and then showing her, I think the movie was Jack Frost,
Yeah.
where the dad gets turned into the snowman.
Uh-huh.
Like the shift, one thing to that, boom. So that kid fucked, like those kids fucked around and they found out like very quickly. And I just don't understand why they thought that it was a good idea.
Well, it's because they're young. The whole thing about it is, and the reason I like this movie, and I think 2 is a little bit low of a score, is because there's no villain in this movie. Like, you can say the kids are, the bad guys because they steal her drugs and gaslight her to the point that she murders their father and then presumably kills both of them and herself. But they weren't doing it because they're evil kids. They were doing it because they missed their mother and they thought this woman was replacing her, and they were upset about it and they wanted her gone. And she wasn't evil. She was damaged from a troubled childhood and had her stabilizers taken and then was gaslighted into insanity, or back into insanity or whatever. So the reason I think this movie is done so well is because there's no villain. It's just one of those things that happens, and it's super possible.
No, I completely disagree. And the reason I give it a low score is because the kids are the villains. Like, Grace is not. Aiden and Mia are the villains of the whole movie. And here's why. Okay? They concocted an entire elaborate plan to gaslight a woman that they knew was fucking damaged. They knew that she was in a cult. They did enough research.
But they're children.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying. They still did it. They went to the extremes to have a plan in place, location, they planned everything down to a T. It wasn't like a practical joke thing, because they specifically targeted her repentance.
Yeah, and they had audio files of her father, the cult leader, and they had, their obituaries or their, in remembrance photos printed off. Like, I get it. Like, I get that they planned it. They had the dollhouse showing the scene that they planned on, using.
And see, that right there tells you how long it took them to do, because they had every scene in the dollhouse was what they recreated, which is one thing that's why I didn't get a 1, because the dollhouse was pretty cool. But every scene in the dollhouse was what they were planning to do. Like, that was their roadmap of everything. And I don't know. Like, it's really interesting that you say that there is no villain, because I don't think that Grace is the villain. I think that it was 2 fucked up kids that drove her to the point of insanity, and then decided when she was going to kill them that they fucked up, and then they become nice.
Well, it's not even that they become nice. They're children. Children are ignorant. I'm sure there are a lot of things that you did as a child, looking back, that you regret doing and wouldn't do now.
Totally different.
It's not.
No, it is. Because the childlike innocence, okay, slips away when you do shit like that.
Well, it's a matter of opinion, because I don't think they knew what they were doing. Like, they knew what they were doing, but they didn't recognize what repercussions could be.
Yeah, they knew they were going to drive her to insanity. Like, that was the goal.
That might have been the goal, but they didn't know the extent that it would go. They didn't know that she'd have a gun. They didn't know that. They might have been able to assume, but you're trying to put your adult intelligence and adult understanding of how crazy some people can be onto a child.
Well, no, because you're underestimating them.
I think you're overestimating them.
No, because I work with teenagers. I work with kids. No, they are.
I think she's like 6 or 7, and he's like 12.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
How old are they? How old are they supposed to be? I don't know. I'm not that kind of doctor. I don't have kids. I don't interact with kids, so I don't actually know.
No, he's easily in his teens.
Is he?
Yeah, easily. He is completely cognizant of the world around him and knows what's going. Like, he is in his teens. He is a moody teenager.
I'm pretty sure he's supposed to just now be going through puberty, and that's why his answer to why he was staring at her in the bathroom was hormones, because he's just going through puberty, which is like 12 or 13.
No, he's like 14, 15. He's like he's 14. Like I put him at 14 and put her at like 12, 11, 12.
See, I put her at like 7, 8 tops and put him at like 12 tops, 12, 13 tops. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not that kind of doctor.
No, I gotta Google it now. Cause like, I mean, that's what I thought.
Even if he is 12, even if he is 15 or
Laura's
16.
death traumatized her 17-year-old son Aiden and 12-year-old daughter Mia.
He's supposed to be 17.
Fuck you.
Okay.
He's 17. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Okay.
So did she. Go fuck yourself.
Well,
they are the villains.
If she's 12, maybe, and him being 17, he probably knew.
No. There is no probably. He definitely knew what he was doing. He concocted a plan.
He's supposed to be 17.
No, yeah, literally says 17.
That's I don't.
That's why he
surprising.
said. That's why he said fuck you and fuck off. And his dad didn't do anything because he was a 17-year-old.
I don't know. I started saying shit like that when I was pretty little, and my parents didn't say anything after like the first month of me telling him to fuck off. Like they gave up on me not cussing very shortly after I decided it was the thing I was gonna do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of. I'm upset that I put him at 14 and he was 17, but I was like way closer than you.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, because like he knew what he was doing, and that's the thing. You were underestimating him, being like, "Oh yeah, they're young, they don't know." No, you have to have a level of intelligence to plan something like that out. Like you have to know if you're intelligent enough to put into play a pulley system where you can hang yourself and then be like, "Oh, I'm not. Look, see, we can't die, Grace. We can't fucking die." You have to be cognizant enough to know what is going to happen.
I mean, I don't think so, man. I still feel like they didn't intentionally know what was going to happen. Like, yeah, they fucked with her. Yeah, they did hood rat shit they shouldn't have done. But to say that they knew that she was going to go crazy and have access to a gun and kill their dad and then, like I said, presumably kill all of them is unreasonable.
I would venture I would say like the way that I've thought of this movie is that they wanted her to kill herself.
I don't think so.
That they were driving her to suicide.
I don't think so.
They were going to drive her to be so fucking crazy that she either kills herself or the dad Richard leaves and then she kills herself. Like that was the end goal.
So then making her leave or making Richard not want to be with her anymore is totally something I could believe. But I don't think they wanted her to die because Aiden tried to stop her when she was like, "I'm going to walk to town." He was like, "Are you kidding? You're going to go out there and die." He was like, "You won't survive." He was like, "You leave, you die."
No, he did that because he knew that she was taking care of them. Like that was for his own pure selfish reasons.
I don't think so because she wasn't taking care of them at all.
Yeah, she was.
Especially not if he's 17.
I mean, you thought he was 12. Like, I'm literally playing this with you thinking that they're the wrong age.
But even being 12, when I was 12, I could make beans and crackers myself because that's what they eat after he hides the food, which he knows where it is. Like, they both know where it is. They were never in any danger at all.
No, they knew exactly. The only thing that they were actually in danger of was no power and the pipes freezing.
And they could turn the power back on.
Well, no, they couldn't because he tried doing the generator and it wouldn't work. I mean, he tries the generator and he can't get it.
At the beginning?
No, even at the end.
Really?
Yeah, at the end because he's like,
because he can't get their phones to charge. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, because he realizes they fucked up because she goes crazy.
But he doesn't know that. He's still, when she leaves, he's still under the impression that they're fine.
Yeah, the moment he realizes they fucked up is when she goes outside in his cradle. Like, they killed the dog.
I don't think that was intentional.
I think that was intentional.
It might have been intentional from Aiden, but I don't think it was from Mia because Mia was so upset about it.
She did cry and say she left the door open.
Yeah, I don't think that was intentional. And if it was, it wasn't Mia.
Right.
But okay, so we've talked a lot about like the basic things that happened in it. Do you think there's any allegory or metaphor or anything deeper to this movie?
No.
No, you don't think it's a metaphor allegory for purgatory?
No, I never.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I could see it, but I think that it would be, if anything, it's the deeper meaning of maybe give your step parents a fucking chance.
Yeah.
They're not trying to replace your family. They're not trying to replace your mom or dad.
Give them a small pass.
Give them a small pass because they are trying. If anything, that's what that is. Like the acceptance of that. That would be the deeper. But I don't think this movie has a deeper meaning. I think that it tries. And I think that you saying a deeper meaning and allegory for purgatory was the intent, but it never gets there. There isn't anything that makes me go, oh, or it could be an allegory for hell, even.
Well, so that's actually interesting, and I'm glad you mentioned that because hell isn't mentioned at all in the movie.
But
Even,
it is.
Is it?
It is in the sense that because they say, how are they going to go to heaven?
Right, but that's not mentioning hell. Like, yes, you're right. Hell is referenced or alluded to, but it's never stated. Purgatory is mentioned multiple times. Heaven's mentioned a few times, but hell is never specifically mentioned.
Right, because they're afraid to do it.
Is
I
that
think they're just afraid to say it or something. But no, you're right. It's never mentioned, but it's alluded to. And if you don't go to heaven, what happens?
purgatory?
You go to hell. Purgatory is the waiting place. If we take the concept of purgatory that was created in Dante's Inferno, purgatory is the waiting place, the holding cell, if you will, where nothing happens and you want to get into purgatory. If you're waiting to either go to heaven or hell. I think in Dante's Inferno, when you get to purgatory, you're waiting to get into heaven and have to be judged to get into heaven after he fights his way out of hell.
Well, so that's why I would say this is purgatory and not hell, because this suffering is their redemption. Like that's Grace's whole point in hurting herself and like burning her knees and doing all of that, is putting yourself in pain, and purgatory is the way to repent to be accepted into heaven.
Through the eyes of the cult.
Yeah, I'm not saying at all that that's my opinion or what I think. I'm saying that's what her character believes.
Right. This is what the cult instilled upon her, that her father instilled.
Yeah. Okay, I was just wondering. I didn't know. I don't really see it very much either. Like, I can see how someone could argue it, but it's not something that I thought was enough there to warrant legitimate discussion.
It's a weak argument. I think you could make the argument of accepting your step parents a lot easier than you could make the argument of purgatory.
Well, I don't know about that, because this movie shows that you shouldn't accept your step parents, because your step parent might kill you and murder your actual parent.
If you're a piece of shit and drive them to it, like, yeah. That's your fault. You literally fucked around.
All of that could have happened if she had just forgotten her pills in the first place. We don't know how much of that was them gaslighting her and how much of that was her already being crazy, though, bro.
No, it was 100% both.
I mean, I agree that it was them gaslighting her. I'm just saying.
Like, yeah, it was more of them. Like, it was a mixture of both, because she was controlling the psychosis, I guess, with the pills.
Yeah.
But them gaslighting her, yeah, that was what set her over the edge.
Definitely a step too far. Were there any specific scenes during this movie that you were just like, oh, that's a cool ass scene?
Besides when Mia cries, every time that Mia cries, yeah. I just really, really like that kid. Trying to think. Jaden Martell, who plays Aiden, was also Bill in young Bill in It. I don't think we mentioned that.
We did not.
I didn't really like him in this movie.
I didn't like him as much as I've liked him in other things he's been in.
It was a very weak performance.
I don't think it was so much a weak performance as that he was supposed to be an unlikable character.
I guess. I don't know. Riley Coe, I think that's how you pronounce that last name.
Yeah, Grace.
Yeah, she did a really good job, I thought, of juggling the thin line between sane and insane. The veil of insanity was starting to rip. And I think that she did a very good job with that. Richard, who plays Richard, ironically enough, I don't think, that's really his name. I thought that was funny. I don't think he was in the movie enough to be able to warrant whether or not he was good.
That's how I feel.
But I mean, overall, Leah carries the movie. more than anything, and I would say that any scene involving her is good, but I don't think there's really a standout scene. The only standout scene would be when she burns her knees. Like
Intense.
that was an intense one. And then maybe the ending we can talk about where she drags their dad to the table to eat beans with him being dead, and then duct tapes her mouth with the sin and duct tapes their mouth with sin, which was the same way that the cult members. So it's not highly unlikely that she murdered both of them and then herself, because that's the way the cult members went out.
Yeah.
We don't see it. We don't know.
Well, the fact that it alludes to the gun after she puts the tape, like it lingers on the gun for a second before it starts rolling the credits, to me is a clear indication that she's about to at least kill one of them in herself. She might leave Mia alive to propagate the cult, especially since you said that she's 12, which is the same age.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about it like that, but that's a good point.
This is the first time I've thought about it like that because of the age difference.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be that, but...
So the only other scene that I want to talk about that we haven't talked about is also a Mia scene. It's when they're releasing the balloons, and the balloon with the doll that is, the doll she carries throughout, I think it's supposed to represent her mother.
Yeah, the spirit of her mom.
Yeah, when it dropped back down, I thought that was powerful, especially for like the thematic elements of the movie.
I really enjoyed that one because everybody else releases their balloon, and even the way that they kind of like go to release the balloons and then hold off on it, and you can still see her fucking around with it, and then they release, and then she finally ties it and goes to release, and it comes back down, and she just rips it off and lets it go. I thought that was a very powerful scene.
Absolutely.
I mean, Mia really carries the whole movie, honestly. If I had to create a new section called Number One Character, the GOAT of the whole movie, it'd be Mia.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you.
Like, and that's another part of the reason why my score is so low. I didn't really care about any of the characters but Mia. Like, I didn't even really care about Grace. Grace was a good character, but I didn't really care.
No, I think that if it wanted us to be more sympathetic towards Grace, it should have focused on her at the beginning rather than it focusing on the children's reactions to her.
Right.
But I think that was a directorial choice.
It was to paint her as the bad guy.
Yeah, or as like a crazy person.
Right, because we don't really care.
Yeah.
But no, it didn't really pay much attention to her, and I thought that was a little upsetting because I think that she was probably okay. She would be the second best character. Didn't give a fuck about Aiden.
I thought Aiden's character was okay. I don't think it was like I said, I don't think it was as good as previous roles he's been in.
I'm Aiden, I'm a whiny little bitch. My mom died and you're trying to replace her, so I'm gonna make you fucking leave, even if it's permanently.
I mean, no, I hear that. But I don't think his character being poor compared to his previous characters is him being a bad actor thing. I think that it's just his character wasn't written as strongly.
No, his character wasn't written well at all. It's not. I don't think it's him. I think that he just chose a shitty role because the character wasn't fleshed out. I think that he tries.
Yeah.
But he just can't. There's no way. No.
Do you have anything else for this movie?
I don't. I really don't. I tried. But yeah, wouldn't recommend watching it. If you watch it for free or whatever, that's fine. I think that it's funny that you said I'm the overly critical one.
I mean, I think you're being a little overly critical of this movie.
But I have to.
No, I feel that.
Like,
I'm here for it. I'm not opposed to you shitting on it.
This podcast has made me overly critical of every movie I watch. I don't watch movies for fun and enjoyment anymore. I go, could have done that shit better.
How many movies have you made?
Have I made?
Yeah.
In my head?
No, in real life.
None, but I know.
So how do you know you could do it better, asshole?
Because I fucking could.
I mean, that's fair.
I know I could. I see the way they do the scenes, and I'm like, I could do that way better.
And just take everyone's clothes off, and suddenly it becomes a bearable movie. Not this, but in general, that would make most movies better.
Yeah, if they all just strip down naked. You know what? We're just going to write a movie called Nude.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to be naked the whole time.
And it's just going to be like a slice of life. It's basically going to be just a day at this random bar. but everyone in it's naked. And
But they
they're
don't
never
know.
going to acknowledge the nudity at all.
No, because they don't know.
Yeah, they're all just, it's going to be a regular day, ordering drinks, shooting pool, hanging out. And it's going to be like a 12-hour long movie of this fixed angle inside this bar where everyone's naked.
Until eventually somebody says, "Why are we naked?" And then everybody fucking goes into a frenzy and kills each other.
Well, no, someone's going to walk in with clothes on, and all the naked patrons are going to look at him the way you'd look at like someone who walked into a bar naked now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it'll be an allegory for how we live our lives exposed, and the only people that are normal are the ones that hold in their emotions and cover themselves up and don't expose themselves like everybody else does, and that's what the allegory is.
I don't know about all that, but
This is called elevated horror, bitch.
So what do you have for Taylor's talk today, my friend?
Oh, you don't want to talk about this anymore? You're like, let's just skip into the good shit.
Well, no, it's I don't want to ruin our movie before we release it.
Okay, that's fair. So today for Taylor Talk, I want to talk about a murder mystery cold case that I personally have been following since 2017 that recently got some updates. So whenever we release this episode, you can kind of figure it out based off of this. But I want to talk about the Snapchat murders, aka the Delphi murder.
Okay.
So let me take you back to that cold day in Delphi, Indiana, February 14th, 2017. Okay. Abigail Williams and Liberty Roseland don't go to school. Taking the day off, right? They decide to go to a park. Sister drops them off, says they'll be back in I think it's like an hour or two or whatever, letting them do their thing. Completely innocent, everything's fine. Dad's supposed to come and pick them up at designated time. They're going to go walk the path. They're going to come back. Dad comes, nowhere to be found. Dad waits, nobody comes. Neither of the girls come. So they call. Phone rings, nobody answers. File a missing person report, and it takes them a little while before they finally find the bodies of the two girls.
It was the next day.
It was, yeah.
Because they died on February 13th. Or they died one day and they were found the next.
I thought they died on the 14th. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it took a while for them to find them because I think that it was getting dark because they found them pretty early, if I remember correctly, the next morning. Whenever daylight happens, they find the bodies. And they were not, I don't know how to say it. It wasn't really apparent what had happened. Obviously they were dead, but there wasn't any activity, if that makes sense. The bodies were kind of put neatly in place and left alone and looked like they had been slightly cared for and weren't just discarded. Yeah. It wasn't like they weren't posed or anything. But they were kind of laying there neat. And what was it? I think it was Abby that had the phone where she started recording on the bridge that they were walking on. Was a train track bridge that, kind of reminds me of the scene in the what's the fucking Stephen King movie with the four boys?
Stand By Me.
Yeah, Stand By Me, where they're walking on the train tracks.
Yeah.
That's what that reminded me of. And they find a video, and it's like a 2-minute video that she recorded of this man that is following behind them, and he's not walking. He's walking. He's not running, but he has his hands in his pockets and his head's down. You can't see his face; it's obscured, but you can see what he's wearing. And the next thing that the police released was the audio that says, "Go down the hill," is what it was. Kind of, ordering them to go down, which the bottom of the hill is where their bodies were found. So it's safe to assume that this is when the tragedy struck afterwards. But nobody could figure it out. There were 2 sketches that were done of presumably a white middle-aged man.
Yeah.
Is what it looked like. And there were other locals who had seen a man that kind of matched this description, which made the second drawing that looked completely different, of a guy that was wandering around the park at the same time that the 2 girls went missing. So I remember watching that and thinking, oh, well, it's 2017. Come on. They're going to find him.
Yeah, super fast.
Yeah, it was super fast. What was it, 2018, 2019, when the Golden State Killer was finally revealed?
I think it was a little. It was either. I think it was 2019. I think it
Mhm.
might have been 2018.
Well, because I remember in the back of my mind, when the next year passed and they hadn't figured out who killed the two girls, I was like, oh shit, is this really gonna go unsolved? Like, I was mad because they were young. They were like 13, 14 when it.
Yeah.
So I was like, come on, they're this. It's 2017. Someone has to know what happened to them. I mean, you can't just get away with that in today's time. And then the Golden State Killer stuff came out, and it was like, oh, he's been identified and caught, because that was like 2019, right around when COVID hit, and it was because I remember like his trial, he was wearing a mask,
Yeah.
and I remember thinking, okay, well, if they can identify the Golden State Killer, there is no fucking way that Abby and Liberty won't get justice, right?
Right.
But it never happened.
Well, it did, or it is.
It is. Because at that time I was like, oh, it's not. And then all of a sudden we get an update and it's 2022. And I'm thinking, holy shit, because this news flash pops up. And Richard Allen has been convicted. Or he hasn't been convicted, he's been arrested. He's like the prime suspect in the Delphi murders. And as of now, we don't really have anything. The only update that I was really able to find is that he has a court hearing, and that he was a local at a bar, and he would purposely sit in front of the police sketch, like the first police sketch that doesn't really look like him at all. But he would sit in front of that, and there's even a picture that was released of him and presumably his wife, where he would be sitting in front of it, and then he would talk to the local patrons at the bar. But this kind of brings this thought process in, right? Because he was a outstanding member of the community, kind of a dude that you wouldn't really expect. Just normal ass guy that maybe talked about the murders a little too much, but now, it's like he got convicted 5 years later and has a trial set, and the police are
Arrested 5 years later.
or he's arrested 5 years later, hasn't been convicted, but he pretty much has, because the police know that it was him, but they won't say how.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm super happy about it because justice is finally going to be served. It was one of those things where it should have happened a lot sooner, but I'm glad that it's finally done. So I don't know how much you know about the Delphi murders.
I mean, I don't know. Everything I know is basically just public knowledge. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm glad that he was arrested. There have been a few people that I think that have been suspected over the years. But based on my understanding, this is the most likely person. So that's very exciting. And hopefully, if he is the one who did it and they have enough evidence to prove it, he goes to jail for a very long time or is put to death. Because, you shouldn't kill children.
Well, they have him in a separate holding facility, because if they put him in Gen Pop, he will die.
Well, I mean, that's how it
Like-
works with stuff like that.
Right. And they know it. They know that because of what he has been not convicted of, accused. What he's been accused of would warrant his death. And the really interesting thing is he wasn't one of the suspects, but he lived like a mile from the park. Or no, he lived a mile from, it was either Abby or Liberty, one of the two. Like, he lived like a mile from their house in the same neighborhood. So it was pretty apparent that was the guy, but he wasn't ever on the list.
Right.
And you're right, there were tons of people that all had alibis, everything checked out, and they thought it was one guy. And I can't remember this dude, but basically he had how do I say this? I don't know how to say this without getting flagged. He had what is it? What do they say? Cheese pizza,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, he had a cheese pizza
Oh, okay. Never
ring.
mind. Yeah.
Where he would take images of random people, because he's like a fat, ugly dude, that were hot, and he would get into contact with teenage girls. And one of those teenage girls was Liberty, that he was connected with. So it was kind of one of those things where he has this proof, and I'm wondering if that's kind of how they caught him, because apparently he shared the account with multiple people.
That's fair.
which is a really scary thought, you know?
Dude, there are so many creepy people online doing creepy things.
And I
Like,
guess that's like one of the things that I don't think about. Because, like, I know that they're out there, right? But it's just kind of one of those things that you put in the back of your mind and you're like, oh, well, I guess it happens.
yeah, I mean, that's like what parents have been telling us since the late 90s and early 2000s. Don't meet strangers on the internet because they might be some, overweight middle-aged man sitting behind his computer pretending to be a, girl or a teenage girl or whatever. Or in this case, a teenage boy.
Well, that's why the show Catfish is so popular.
Yeah, exactly, because it's like a real everyday thing.
Yeah, because it's never who you think it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever been catfished? I've been catfished twice.
So I'm not going to say that I have been catfished because I'm going to say I haven't been knowingly catfished. The likelihood of me being catfished is pretty high, especially since I talked to a lot of random people on the internet when I was a kid, but I've never known about it, if that's the case. So I don't know. It's like a 50-50 shot.
No, I've been catfished twice. One of them was in high school by a student in a couple grades above me.
Oh, that's fucked
that's
up.
all the information I'm going to give on the podcast, obviously.
Right, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
no,
Yeah,
I know. Pretty much everyone.
everybody. Yeah.
But yeah, that happened, and then I was also catfished once a few years before that in middle school. But it was just it was nothing major.
Have you ever catfished somebody?
No.
Oh.
No, I mean, I've made accounts with names that weren't me before, but it was never with the intention of convincing someone that I was someone I wasn't. It was just like role-playing stuff for like online role-playing groups and stuff, if that makes sense.
So I don't know if it's like catfishing, but I mean, I guess it technically is because every time I get a random number that texts me and they think that I'm somebody else, I will pretend to be that person.
Yeah, that's catfishing for
Then,
sure.
yeah, I've catfished a fuck ton of people. I'm sure this one woman was probably really, really mad at her husband because that's who she was texting and that's who I was pretending to be. And she was like, "Can you put on coffee?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll put on coffee. Absolutely. What kind do you want?" And then she told me, and I said, "Cream and sugar." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, thank you for remembering." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you gotcha." She never got it. Like, I don't know if she ever got it, but I'm sure there was probably a fight whenever she got home because I was very adamant that I was going to do it.
Yeah, I'll make you the best cup of coffee you've ever had, babe. No problem.
Oh, yeah, and the last one I did, this person was like, what was it, James? I'm like, yeah. I remember when we were watching Clerks and I was fucking around with that, and you're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I was bored." Yeah, she never texted me back after I was like, "I think we need to see other people."
That's funny.
So, yeah, I have catfish people, but anyway, do you like true crime? Do you like mysteries?
I mean, true crime's not... I mean, it's okay. There are a couple true crime podcasts that I've listened to historically or watched YouTube videos of.
Who's your favorite serial killer?
I don't really have a favorite serial killer.
Oh, you have to.
I really don't.
There's always one that sticks out more than the others.
So, I don't want to use the word favorite, but a serial killer that's always interested me is like Albert Fish.
Okay, yeah, he's kind of fucked up.
Ed Gein is another one that really interests me, but that's just because he's the inspiration, or roughly the inspiration behind Norman Bates from Psycho and Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, he kind of was just schizophrenic, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, I don't have a favorite, but those are two that I've enjoyed learning about simply because they're interesting. But I want to very strongly iterate, they aren't my favorites. I don't have a favorite. I think everything they did was very, very wrong.
Well, yeah, no, I'm like, when I say like my favorite serial killer, I'm like I'm not praising them, but like it's not natural born killers,
Yeah, not Mickey and Mallory.
Mickey, yeah.
I love that movie with Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis.
And it also has young Robert Downey Jr.
Yes, it does. And it also has Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes, it does.
And it was also the movie that got Oliver Stone slapped in the fucking face by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It was also written kind of by Tarantino.
The idea is Quentin Tarantino's, but the script is not at all, and that's why he slapped him, because he basically looked at the script, said, "This is fucking stupid," and rewrote the entire thing. So it's the concept. Like the concept is there, but it's not the same. But no, I would say my favorite is Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer.
He was featured pretty prominently in the Netflix show Mindhunter.
Mm-hmm. He I did. What was it? I had to do a report in college over a serial killer. Forgot what class it was for, but everybody always picks like the classics, like the
Ted Bundy,
Ted Bundy,
Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez,
Oh, come on, there's two more. There's two more that everybody always picks.
Gacy,
Yep, and one more.
Zodiac,
Oh no, not the Zodiac.
Jack
killer.
the Ripper.
Not Jack the Ripper.
I have no idea. The next one, the only other one I can think of right now that we haven't already mentioned is the woman in Florida, the hitchhiker lady.
Oh, Eileen Wuornos.
Yes, Wuornos.
Oh, it's the Green River Killer.
The Green River Killer.
Oh, you
Oh,
don't know?
I know of the Green River Killer, but I don't know who it is.
Gary Ridgway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I'm not super familiar.
He was just so fun fact about that one. Ted Bundy actually helped on that case, which was the inspiration for Hannibal Lecter. When he helps, it was because of that. He didn't really help him though because he wasn't caught until like 2001, but that was because he was fucking stupid and dumped the bodies in the same location. But I had to pick a new one because I was like, what's one that nobody really knows of? And Edmund Kemper is a very interesting motherfucker because you wouldn't know that he kills people. And it was really funny because after he killed his mom,
It was totally fine. He was all better.
totally fine, lost all desire to. But his mom was also like a piece of shit. So, because because his parents got into a divorce, right? And his mom hated his dad, and he looked a lot like his dad. So she would chain him to the floor in the basement and make him sleep there, so that way she didn't have to see him or hear him, because he looked too much like his dad. So then she just like beat the shit out of him, and it's like, oh, well, no wonder you fucking killed her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I get it, but
I'm not saying I get it either.
if
But
you
I get
abuse
it.
your children and then they do mean things to you, you shouldn't be like, oh, I don't understand why my child that I abused did this mean thing to me.
Yeah,
It's
it's like-
kind of what you get.
It's like when you beat a dog.
Yeah, and then it bites you. You're not like, oh, well, I mean, I'm not trying to say that people or children are dogs, but
Well, no, it's the same concept though.
absolutely.
So yeah, this got real dark. This has been a really dark episode.
And with that,
And with that, Bailey.
this has been Two Idiots, One Podcast. No, I'm sorry. What do you got?
Now, is there anything else? Is there something that you wanted to talk about? If I gave the mic to you, what would you say?
If you gave the mic to me, I would tell everybody to follow us on social media. Our link tree is in the description wherever you're listening to this. And to email us any questions to twoidiots1podcast2022@gmail.com. And to message us on Facebook, like us, comment, share our stuff, tell your friends about us. You know, all of that. That's what I would say if you were to give me the mic for like 2 minutes or 30 seconds or however long that was.
Oh, that could be a new segment. 2-minute plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all I have. Do you have anything else, Taylor?
No, I don't. So
Well-
with that being said, this has been Two Idiots, One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're listening. And I want to thank you one more time for taking the time out of your day to listen to me and Taylor ramble about nonsense for an indiscriminate amount of time.
Probably like an hour.
Yeah, probably an hour.
But if I don't see you again, good morning, good night, or what is it?
Good morning, good afternoon,
noon,
good
and
night. Yeah, okay, Mr. Truman Show.
Was that a callback to a later episode?
Previous episode.
Ooh. Maybe you should go back and listen to that one if you don't know what that is. But in case I'm going to see you again,
Yep.
good morning,
Good
good
afternoon.
afternoon, and good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.